Welcome to the world of art. I'm here with my friend Kevin. We're doing this show, and I'm doing a show of display of the artwork that I've been doing for years and years and years. This one here is a pond I go by every single day to go to my studio. And I love the effect of the coloring and the reflection and the water lilies. I was a student at the museum school in Boston at the age of 12 years old. And I was over enjoying the love affair I had with Monet and his water lilies. And I said, I will never paint water lilies or stacks of hay. I sat around these stacks of hay for years and years and couldn't understand how anybody could just paint stacks of hay and water lilies. Now at 77, I'm not painting the stacks of hay, but I'm painting the water lilies. So this particular painting is one of my favorite. It has a great depth to it in the color, in the feeling of the depth, in the reflection. And art has to speak to us. It has to tell us a story. This particular painting tells me a story that I love. So I've got a bunch of paintings, probably 16 or 17 paintings, and my friend Kevin and I are going to go through these. So the next one, get off of there. The next one we're going to put up, I touched up the bottom of this painting. That's why it's stuck to the mat. I have loved this painting since the day I did it, and it's huge, and it's heavy. And the bank had it for 5 years, and they got mad because I took it out. There's something about a field of flowers and trees and the sky. And it has this kind of beautiful afternoon breeze blowing through the trees and the flowers. One of my cards here is from the bank. You know, when I was a student at the museum school, I said to myself, I am never going to paint like everybody else has painted. I'm going to paint like I'm going to paint. I wound up painting all of these paintings, and some of them are just like the people who painted them before me. That's why I love doing the printing, because when I do the printing, it's totally abstract, it's totally different, and it's totally me. But the paintings, they have a reflection of somebody else that went before me, or was a teacher, or a lover of the art that I loved. And as a kid, my two favorite artists were Salvador Dali and Norman Rockwell. And look at the difference between the two of them. One was Saturday Evening Post, and the other guy was on TV after he crashed through the window of Macy's with his head almost got decapitated. He was my idol too. He did this incredible stuff, melted clocks and stuff. So here we go with this beautiful field of flowers. And a lot of my paintings, I love to do fields of flowers. It has a beautiful sky, a gold frame. So it sat in the bank for 4 years and nobody bought it, and they weren't going to buy it, so I took it out. So I'm going to put it where somebody wants to buy it eventually. A corporation maybe. This is one of my favorite paintings also. I love all of my work. I'm kind of jealous about my work. I think that it has a message, and I think that I had a woman, I was a hairdresser for 45 years. I had a Scottish woman who lived in Hingham. And for 25 years, she said to me, you got to see my garden. And I said to myself, I am Italian. I've been in a million gardens. I have gardens up to here. My father loved gardens. The backyard of my house, we lived in a project when I was a kid, and we moved to Queens. We had 2.5 acres of land. It was like the Ponderosa. It took forever to cut the grass, and we had apple trees, pear trees. It was like, I have never seen anything like this as a kid. I was 9 years old. Now I'm 77, and she took me to her garden, and it blew my mind. And I said to myself, what was wrong with you? You should have come 5 or 6 years, 10 years ago. So this is one of the paintings from her garden, and it has this beautiful dynamic flowers with the poppies, the trees in the background, the way the wind was blowing in the yard. I mean, I just loved her garden so much. I painted it maybe 7 or 8 times. And this is my favorite painting of the garden. So I'm done with that. I did this particular painting maybe 40 years ago. and it weighs a ton. I think this particular painting is done on masonite, and I can barely lift it. My wife had me doing some gardening about 4 months ago, pulling the grapevines away from the trees, and I popped my shoulder out, and it hasn't quite got back to normal. This is on the way to the beach. There's something about this. I love the idea that the sand and the grass and the sky, it all has a beautiful, I'm going to the beach feeling, I'm going over the hill. It makes you feel like you're present in the painting. And that to me is one of my favorite things about painting. I want you to feel like you're there. And so many people seeing this and they say, Paul, that painting has a way of talking to me. I said, well, art tells a story. My art does, and somebody else's art. Van Gogh's art tells a story. There's people out there who say Van Gogh's art doesn't tell a story. I don't know what they're seeing or what they're looking at. I did this. I had a friend of mine cut me a panel, a wooden panel, and I wanted it to be a window, and I call it a window garden. I saw this in a house in Maine, and I was thrilled by it, and I said to my friend, you have to do this panel, and it has to be wood, and it has to go off on the edges. You feel like you're standing there looking into this person's window, and that's the kind of feeling I want you to have when you look at this particular painting. Wow, look at that. Those geraniums are jumping off. The glass is kind of shiny. I've probably painted this about 5 or 6 times. I think I might have 2 today, this sideways and the other one up and down, that's over there. And I'll show it. So I call it the window garden. And I'm done with that. I'm moving right along because I have a whole bunch of paintings today, and I want you to feel like, this painting I've done recently, and it just thrilled me. I love the raw water hitting on the rocks. I love the sand moving. I love the sky. I love all of this. And I want it to pull you into the painting. And the sand is way up here, and it's in there, and it's pushing it in the rocks. This particular painting has so much power, you feel like you're actually moving. And that's what's good about being an artist. You can paint a painting and make people feel like they're being touched by it. And that's what this particular painting does for me. And I hope it does it for you. This particular painting here is an old door panel. Somebody throws these doors out all the time, and I pull up and I take them apart, and I paint the frame black, and I threw in this ocean. This is a photograph I had in Maine of the harbor at late afternoon, early sunset. And I wanted just to have that quiet softness with the sky and the water. It's really a fast painting. This is the kind of a painting I could do in an hour, and I love it. And it has that freedom of joy. I want to be there in Maine kind of feeling. This particular painting is around the corner from my house again, the water lilies, and I go by it every single day. And I say to myself, there's something about water lilies in the colors and the after, all of the stuff that goes on. If you stand too close to it, you don't appreciate it. If you go across the room and you sit down and you look at it, it blows you right out of the bud. It blows you right out of the chair. Because I think that it has a whole nother story to tell you. You see certain stuff that you didn't think you'd see, and you look at certain things that have something to say. Another water lily painting. This particular painting I did from a photograph that I took in Monhegan, which is an island in Maine. It was 112 degrees the day my friend Dave and I went there. I was like fried. I could not believe it. But I took a bunch of photographs, and this was my favorite photograph of this wall with the flowers. Whoever did the flowers did a beautiful job. It just pulls you right through the painting, right through. And you feel yourself walking along the wall with the flowers. I think that it is so happy and cheerful and dynamic. I really love the way you follow into it and go along with it. I love doing these small little paintings too. I have so many of them already that I think there's something about clouds and sand and water that I really love. I love the movement. I love the idea that you can go to the beach and once you see a painting like that, the beach goes with you. This particular painting is another one of my photographs that I took in Maine. And I love lupin. And this is a pond in Maine that I go to every year, and I take pictures of the lupin and the pond and the reflection. The dynamic of the purple and the green, it is so powerful. It has to speak to us in a way that we want to have it in our house. I want that. I want to buy that. That's the kind of people I like, the people that want to buy that. And I seem to run into them. They seem to come from different places, but that's the way art is. Here's another one of my ocean scenes. Like I said, I like the idea of the Black Rock Beach in Cohasset. This is what this reminds me of. I go by there, Jerusalem Road, and I'll pull up and I'll watch the water for a couple of hours, crashing against the rocks. That's where I think I painted this one out of my imagination. I love what happens in that particular area. Cohasset's gorgeous. That whole section is gorgeous. I do these flowers because there's something about flowers that really intrigues me. They make you feel joyful. They make you feel happy. That's why people give people flowers when they're in the hospital. That's why they have them at funeral parlors. They make the people alive feel good. So this particular flowers are jumping out of this vase, and I love the vase. The vase has the opposite of orange is blue. The opposite of blue is orange. In the tablecloth and the shadow is in the orange-brown kind of feeling. So this whole painting in the yellow in the background is all thought out. Every step of the way it has a meaning. It makes it work. This is one of my TV shows that I did a while back, and it was all yellow when I did it at the TV show. And I looked at it for about 2 or 3 months, and one day I said, you know something? Painting looks lonely. So I painted the red flowers, the purple flowers, the pink flowers. Now to me it has a joy. It makes me feel like, wow, I want to put this up somewhere in my house. But my house is filled, and my wife is a minimalist, so we have a great time. She wins, I lose. So my bedroom has 30 paintings. The rest of the house is 80 feet long, probably has 7 paintings. That's my wife. And my bedroom is me. And it's too bad. And I tell her, if you don't like my bedroom, close the door. Now, there's a time where I was in love with birch trees. Absolutely in love with birch trees. So this is one of my favorite birch trees. It has a nice, quiet movement. There's plenty of openness. You can feel like you can walk through it. Your mind walks through it anyways. But sometimes we get caught up in the idea that it's too crowded. Well, some of my birch trees are very crowded because they're like that. They're in clusters. I think birch trees, in the sense that they are like a community. They're side by side and really tight. A lot of them. So that's got a nice feeling, the birch trees. Here's some more of these panels that I told you. They're from old doors. There's something about them that I love. I did a whole series of them. This is just a beautiful little ocean scene, quiet little beach. Got a nice feeling. There's more of these, I think. There's another one. This one's got a little more activity. There's something about the way the ocean jumps around. I feel like the waves are dancing. You sit there for hours and hours and look. My wife and I go down to Hull and we walk the beach. And I love to take photographs of the water crashing against some of the rocks down in there. Cohasset, the same thing, Situate. All of those areas, they have this kind of activity. and it's very serene and very powerful. Got a nice feeling. You want to be there. You feel present. Kind of neat. Another soft one. This is probably Black Rock Beach. I love the sky in this particular painting. It's so moving and quiet. You know, people say to me, you have a good way with painting clouds. I spent 2 years. That's all I painted was clouds. People say, how can you make money when you paint nothing but clouds? Every single painting I painted was sold. I had people waiting in line for me to get a cloud painting. I thought, because you look at this particular painting with the sand over there, and boy, that has a magnificent cloud situation. It looks like the storm is going to blow you out the room. That particular painting, my priest friend comes in and says, that is a $2 million painting or $1.5 million painting. And I says, it is what I feel like it is, that kind of thing. It's another one of these ocean scenes. I don't think I showed this one. I showed you the other one. There's 3 of them. I don't want to put up the same thing over again. See what I'm saying? The clouds and the waves and the nice quiet sand. I have a couple over here too that are really nice. One of them is actually Maine and one is actually Pembroke. I'll put up Pembroke first. The water lilies that I go by to come to the studio, they're on Route 14, and there's a restaurant there, right on the water lilies are there, and I go by them all the time, and I say, wow, I'm going to paint that, I'm going to paint that. And I've painted it 3 or 4 times, and I probably will paint it again. I love painting it. But it fits in this panel perfect. You know, it's got a nice quietness, the orange, brownish color goes beautiful with the green and the white and the blue. Nice picture. I like this one a lot. And this particular painting is in Popham Beach, Maine. I have a friend who was in the Coast Guard, and this is the Coast Guard station right here. And this is the beach, of course, the ocean. And he was stationed there, and he met his future wife in a little restaurant that was further down from the beach. And they had a great marriage, and she had a problem with her heart and passed. And he put her ashes on this beach. And I have a painting outside the hallway here, and it's where he dumped the ashes. So when I think of this particular painting, and when I painted it, when I did painting it from the photograph I took when I was there, I thought of all of that, and I said to myself, you know, I want to give this painting that kind of feeling, that it is a very serene, quiet, loving place where somebody could go and say, hey, this is where my wife is, this is where I met my wife, this is what I feel about it, and it has that quality. One more and we're done. I just did this. I've had this photograph. There's something about black and white that thrills me. I know I'm a printmaker and I do tons and tons of prints, and that's how you start a print, by doing black and white. But if you walked through my studio and you saw this particular wall that's over here, you'd see all of these magnificent black and white pictures. So I found this picture about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks, and I decided this is the North River. I was somewhere in that vicinity, and I took a photograph, and it was an overcast day, and it had a black and white feeling, but it wasn't really black and white, of course. I sat down and I painted this, and I really liked the feeling of it. I liked the movement in it. I liked the trees, the sky. Something about, there's a thing, the Orientals, I shouldn't say Orientals, the people that are from that area, Japan, China, all of those places, they say if you paint it in black and white, you don't need color, because black and white is the substance of all color. So as a kid, I loved doing black and white paintings. I loved doing linoleum cuts, and I loved all of that. And as I get older, I'm going back to that love affair with the black and white. Like I said, if you looked at this particular wall, next time or the time after, one of these days we'll do a whole thing on this black and white wall. But I just brought this one in because it was closer by and it was the last one. So you've got a run through of some of my paintings, and I really appreciate my friend Kevin. I appreciate the YouTube. I appreciate the world of art. You are going to learn a lot about art and about painting when I do a painting or when I talk about a painting, because talking about a painting is the same as doing it. It just gives you the complete finishedness of it. When you paint a painting, you do it step by step by step, and it's a different kind of feeling. But at the end of all of this, we're trying to show you that you could paint simply by doing it. Stop saying I can't do this and I can't do that. The minute you say I can't do something, you can't do it. The minute you say I'm going to do something, it's done. God bless. Good day.